You're with On Track talkSPORT's weekly motorsport show. I'm Jon Jackson with Nick Golding from Racing News 365 alongside me. Nick is a very good F1 writer, but also an exceptional Formula E writer. And Nick, it's no surprise the news that came to us earlier today on Monday that Mitch Evans has announced after a decade with Jaguar TCS Racing, he will be leaving at the end of the season. There's been some ups and downs, let's say. Even this season, there have been some tricky moments. And I feel like it's probably a good move for everyone involved.
I think this is the perfect definition of all good things come to an end, because it's been, 10 years with the same team in motorsport is a very, 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 very long time. And I think it was one of those where you could kind of sense it was going to end. And actually, it's not just Mitch who, obviously, he's leaving by a mutual agreement is the way it's being worded by Jaguar. But you could since pre-season, you could feel this is going to happen, because the big bombshell that Mitch dropped back at pre-season testing last November in Valencia was that he wasn't involved in the team's Gen 4 development. He wasn't seeing any of the data, wasn't in the meetings, had nothing to do with the testing of the car. So as soon as that happened, you kind of got the sense of, hold on, he's not going to be here for much longer. And long behold, obviously it's now being announced ahead of this weekend's doubleheader in Berlin that yes, Mitch is leaving Jaguar. He obviously has won the most races in Formula E of any driver in history, has done incredible things with the team. But again, it's one of those moves where it's a bit similar to Red Bull in the way, because, could Max leave Red Bull? Mitch is leaving Jaguar. And the reason I say that is everyone that kind of started at Jaguar with Mitch has left. James Barkley, who was team principal for a long time, he's gone. Phil Charles, he's obviously left and gone to DS Penske. The big people that had been there for a long time all left. Mitch was very much the last man standing sort of things. It's very much a new team around him now. He's been that last, the last piece of the old puzzle remaining, but now he's going to go as well. So it kind of feels natural, obviously, widely expected he's going to be off to the brand new Opel team, which looks very exciting. So I think a fresh start for Mitch, and it comes at a good time for him as well with Gen 4 next year.
Looking at the stats then, he does hold the outright lead in race wins, 15. He won that 15th race in the United States in Miami earlier this year. 11-year history, 10 years with the team. Championship's been around for 11 years. 21 podiums aside from those 15 wins is huge. 10 pole positions, 9 fastest laps, and they've put a stat here of 1,064 points achieved in 132 race starts. So, incredible stats for Mitch, but the stats that will kill him the most are those 2 runner-up prizes with the World Championship. And I think we look back a couple of years to London where he felt that the team didn't back him. They made decisions that didn't favour him. He never really got over that, did he? And we sort of saw signs of that in the last race weekend as well. So we have 11 races to go this season. Wouldn't it be a funny story? Not funny story, but wouldn't it be just typical that Mitch, who currently sits third in the championship, wins the championship and says goodbye? That would be maybe the thing that would put a big cherry on top of his time at Jaguar, as opposed to him looking back and thinking, what if?
I was going to say, Mitch has done pretty much everything at and with Jaguar except one, and that is win the driver's title. And he's got a chance this year. He sits 18 points behind Pascal Wehrlein going into this weekend. You mentioned, obviously, London 2024. There was also radio drama in London 2025 last year. And, of course, as you mentioned as well, in Madrid a few weeks ago. It would just be the most Formula E thing ever for Mitch to go and win the world title and then leave Jag. The problem for Mitch is his teammate Antonio Felix da Costa is also very much in the title fight, just 1 point behind Mitch, and as a result, 19 behind Pascal. But it would just be, I think it would actually sum up Mitch's decade with Jaguar, all the heartache he's gone through. And he's kind of always said himself, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Is he going to leave them as the bride? Weirder things have happened, and I wouldn't rule it out. It would just be the most Formula E thing of Formula E things.
Even with his, not blow up, I don't know what we want to call it, whatever happened in Madrid when he came second behind his teammate Antonio Felix da Costa, who is on a 2-race winning streak now after that victory in the second race in Jeddah. for Mitch, it does feel like he's more chilled this year. We noticed this at the start of the season. I guess maybe because he knows it's the last year of his contract. He knows he's got something exciting to move on to. And probably in a way, if he's not happy at that team fully, he feels a bit of relief that he does have something, a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not saying that they, all despise each other or anything like that, but it does seem like it doesn't take much for him to maybe unlock those memories of 2024 London. But yeah, going into this year, when you see a driver that's relaxed and feeling good and you watch him get an early win, you wouldn't count against it. However, we have Pascal Wehrlein leading the championship, which is probably a big deal going into Berlin this weekend. It's obviously his home race as a German. He also looks incredibly relaxed. It's always beautiful to see him with his daughter up on the podium. Feels like he's a lot more chirpy, a lot more friendly, a lot more jokey than he has been in previous years. Maybe winning a world championship and becoming a father does that to you. But we have two races in at Tempelhof this weekend, and it could be the last year that we race there. We've done 22 races already, believe it or not, the most raced on Formula E track. But there are rumours that the Gen 4 car might just be a bit too powerful for I don't know what you call it, the airport track, which is cool, but there's no sort of elevation changes, and maybe it is time for a refresh. What do you make of that?
I agree. The cool thing with Tempelhof, it was actually the airport was closed in 2008, but the thing that's interesting is it's like every kid's dream who likes racing. You can quite literally build whatever racetrack you want. If they really want to, they could build a jump and make it pure Race of Champions vibes. So that they could do whatever they want there. Please don't. We don't need that. But you can literally name another circuit or place in the world where you can quite literally design and put on a world championship motorsport using whatever track you want. I personally really don't like the track layout they've currently got. For me, it's way too simple. But yeah, there's obviously some murmurs, some rumours that Berlin might be slipping off. There's also some people saying it could stay on. There's some mixed messages coming out over what's going to happen with Berlin. But yeah, Pascal goes into, of course, title leader. It would be a big one for him to win in front of his home crowd. But for me, Jaguar, and we keep talking about them, always seem to be good in Berlin. The track suits them very, very well. The big thing for me as well about this weekend, it looks like it's going to be dry and actually quite sunny and warm. We've not had that in Berlin for a little while. I'll tell you that. Last year was miserable. But actually, it's so easy to forget that Berlin last year, we were crowning a world champion, Oliver Rowland. That feels like a lifetime ago. Of course, it's because last year Berlin was in July. This year, of course, it's in end of April, start of May. But of course, we won't be crowning world champion. But it feels bizarre that already we're going back to the place where Ollie was crowned. It's a cool venue as well. Sold out, doubleheader. So that's also a big thing for the sport. It's a venue that fans like as well. So let's see what happens. It's good to have not only F1 back, but of course, Formula E as well.
Yeah, and it's also the place where we had one of the strangest ever protests where people jumped over the fence to sit on the grid when the cars were about to go, protesting against, big oil or whatever on an all-electric sustainable motorsports championship, which has been net zero since for day zero, as they famously announced. So, yeah, that was a slightly strange one. But yeah, if it is the last couple of races at Tempelhof, it has been a good home for Formula E. Obviously, what happened in the pandemic era where they had 6 races was kind of very memorable. I think the drivers were maybe a little bit sick of it by the time they finished that weekend. But as you say, Jaguar very strong there. Antonio Felix Acosta has the joint most wins there alongside Nick Cassidy, who obviously won there in a Jaguar car last time out. Antonio Felix Acosta loves that track. Plus, he now drives for Jaguar. It would be hard to bet against him this weekend, I would have thought. But also, there's another driver that's second in the championship that no one seems to be talking about, and that is Edo Mortaro with Mahindra, who's had a really strong start to the season and is outscoring his teammate Nick de Vries every weekend.
He's just plucking along quite nicely, isn't he? Going very much under the radar. And that sums up Mahindra. They've been on this steady rise, yet to claim a win in Gen 3. Can they do it in Berlin? They have a quick car, a consistently quick car, and that's important. Whether it's enough to get a win, Berlin's a really funny one because it's such a short track. It is very much the peloton style where you are going to see a couple of seconds separating first to last at some points, 4 or 5 cars abreast. It's a bit of a wacky one. The middle of the race can get quite complicated. It's always a good start, good finish. But Edo's smart, and you do feel that he needs a good couple of results in Berlin, because what we tend to see is, we are approaching now the halfway stage of this season, and it's always kind of around the halfway point. The drivers are going to fight for the title do start to slowly just break away from the rest. And you look at the standings now, And you look at Pascal Wehrlein and Edo, the two Jag drivers, Nick Cassidy, even Nico Muller's having a great year, obviously currently sixth in the standings. Oliver Rowland just about holding on, but particularly as we've got so many double headers now coming up, gaps in the standings appear very, very quickly. So one bad race or one bad weekend in Berlin means you've had two bad races, and you can't really afford that. I remember speaking to Nick Cassidy last year and said, really, when it comes to this kind of, doubleheader events, across a season, you can afford maybe one bad doubleheader, but that's then it. You're out of chances. You've got to be on it for the remaining races. Got there eventually. So it's a weekend where, yeah, I think it's going to be a big one for the title championship, because we could start to begin to realise and understand who is going to be fighting for the crown this year.
And of course, with Gen 4 on the horizon, there's a lot of drivers who will be wanting to get some points because they might be driving for their careers, with lots of young drivers coming up who have big financial backing. And let's face it, although Formula E isn't a championship where big financial backing is a necessity, it's always going to sway a decision when someone comes along with a partner that would like to get involved in the team. So, I won't name any names, but there are some drivers down the bottom of these standings that might want to look a little bit behind their shoulders and pull something out of the bag this weekend in Berlin, has to be said. Those races, both Saturday and Sunday, are at 3 p.m. UK time, and you'll be able to listen to exclusive live commentary on the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel. We'll, of course, round things up next week on this show as well, and we'll have highlights on talkSPORT 2 on Monday evening. So plenty of opportunity to catch it. You can watch the races live on the ITV network as well in the United Kingdom. And if you are an international listener or viewer to this show, you'll be able to check out where you can watch those races in your country on the Formula E website. So, Nick, thank you very much. We will catch up this weekend. We will see you behind the scenes on the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel. And in the meantime, enjoy the racing this weekend. There's also some endurance racing going on. In fact, there's loads of different racing going on around the world, and it's good to have both Formula E and Formula One back.